Hello, everyone, and welcome to the How They Did It graduate interview series. This is where I get to interview my beloved graduates of my 12-week Thriving Studio Owner program or my alumni program or my year-long mastermind, and really get to tell their stories of what we like to call in my program the hero story, their stories of transformation and how they've made such amazing quantum leap jumps in building their studio's success. And so for those of you guys who don't know me, I'm Kiki Lovelace, and I am the founder and lead business growth mentor at the Thriving Studio Owner program. I also, of course, own a studio myself. I opened Interstellar Pilates and Yoga Studio here in Berkeley, California in 2011. And I was actually a full-time Pilates and yoga teacher in the field for 10 years before that. So I've been doing this essentially my entire adult life since I graduated college. And so it is just one of my biggest passions to help budding entrepreneurs like the one that you're about to meet, Alyssa, to help create their dream businesses, their businesses that help not only give them the impact that they crave in order to, to become like a force of healing for their community, but also to actually support them financially and energetically and support their team members as well, their staff members as well. So I'm lucky enough to have with me here Miss Alyssa Miller, who is a studio owner and an incredible anxiety and stress coach herself. And she has a studio, which is what I like to call a baby studio. It's a newer studio in Pennsylvania. And in a moment, Alyssa, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you came to decide to open a yoga studio and your journey thus far with studio ownership. Can you give us a little background?
Yeah, so I actually never thought that I would open a studio, but the opportunity came up, and so I'm pretty easy at going with the flow with things. So I figured, we'll try it out, see how it works. And because I had already loved teaching yoga and sharing this with people, just because of my experience with having my own anxiety and depression and how that brought me to the practice. And so then I kind of just brought that into the studio and saw the impact that it was having on other people at a greater scale than just me hopping around teaching classes everywhere. So, it was just fun to create a little community and share those things that like I was missing actually like. So I was basically creating something that I couldn't find elsewhere, where I previously, when I did my teacher training, I went to a studio that was about an hour away because I worked closer to there. But then when I wasn't at that position anymore, I couldn't find anything that was closer to me that had that kind of like tight knit group of people. So that's kind of just what I really wanted to create.
And tell us a little bit about your background. Like, obviously, pre-studio ownership, you had several other kinds of jobs and a whole career. So tell us about your career up until this point.
Yeah, so I graduated college in 2011, which was like a year before I came to yoga. And so I had a full-time marketing job doing digital marketing at that point. And from there, I got interested in yoga and the whole like fitness and health kind of thing. So after about 2 years working there, I actually quit my job that time too, and was trying to just kind of feel things out and see where it took me. So I did personal training and like full-time yoga teaching pretty much for about 3.5 or 4 years, I want to say, before I opened the studio. And then as I opened the studio, I went back to working full-time with digital marketing at 2 other companies, actually. So
Okay, wait,
so
I want to pause you there. So, so you went back to digital marketing because you had opened the studio, but you were like not yet making money for the studio,
Yep.
right? And so,
yeah, that was the main reason.
right. And so did that happen concurrently? Like you literally opened your home yoga and bar studio, and at the same month you went and got another job?
So I actually opened, and then I think it was probably about maybe 6 months later, I decided to go back to full-time work. So, so I gave it a little bit of time, but not what I should have.
Okay, so tell us more about that, because I know that now, since I've been working with you,
Mhm.
you've now quit that digital job. So how long were you working? You had the studio and also this
Yep.
job, which I think is a common situation amongst studio owners when they first start, is like, they're like, holy shit, how am I
Yeah.
supposed to do this? So they, all of a sudden, they're stretched really thin. So tell us about that time.
Yeah, so I had that pretty much the entirety of having the studio. I was there. I think I was at the one company for 3 years, and then the other one I was there for the first year. So about 4 years of full-time work and studio on the side. But yeah, time management with that was very tough. And looking back at it now, I'm like, I don't know how I did all of that. And
Seriously.
it's only been a couple months. So yeah, I would just basically go to my full-time job. On my lunch, I would like answer any phone calls or emails and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'd do some of that stuff before I'd go to my full-time job too, earlier. And then when I came home, I would do like all emails and all of that kind of thing if I wasn't teaching. So
Oh my God, that sounds nuts. And now that you're
yeah.
out of it, now that you've quit that job, I know you feel like, wow, I have a lot more time to like deal with
Yeah.
these studio things. And yeah, which is awesome. So I just love this story so much. So I know that one of the things that we really worked with, and I work on all this on limiting beliefs with all my mentees, but I think one of the things you shared with me recently that was really a game changer for you was like actually creating the belief that it was possible to make
Mhm.
money as a studio owner, which I think you realize like, oh, I'm actually carrying a belief that this isn't even possible. So can you tell us a little bit about like the realization that you were even carrying that belief and how you reweaved that belief in these last several months?
Okay. Yeah. So for pretty much the whole time that I had the studio, like at first I didn't really have, I don't think I had limiting or good beliefs at first. I think I just was kind of just going with stuff and experimenting. And then when I started working full time, I was like, well, I guess I kind of have to have something on the side, because pretty much every other yoga studio owner around me, at least, they had other jobs too. And the ones that I had talked to said that it was pretty hard to make ends meet, like if you didn't have like multiple locations and all that kind of thing. And even then, it was iffy for them at that point. So I think just having that, I somehow kept that and held on to it for a long time. So I just always thought like, oh, this will be my side thing. It'll be my fun money if I make anything from it, and kind of treated it as that too. So I wasn't really even treating it as an actual business. And then in your program, of course, like you see like other people that have like, I think too, like I was kind of stuck on not having so many amenities, like I didn't have showers and all that kind of stuff. And I thought like if you're going to have any kind of income that's going to actually support you, then it should be like looking like that in my mind for some
Mm,
reason.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but then connecting with everybody in the program, and even you, like and seeing like everybody's success that you've worked with, it was really cool, because there are studios that are small like mine and things like that, that and don't have all the amenities that some others do, like a hot yoga studio or something. But and they're making substantial revenue or substantial income too, which is nice to just see that it's possible for other people too.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Like, I mean, first of all, I just want to acknowledge that we don't have really any amenities at my studio. We just have some bathrooms. We don't even have a
Yeah.
changing room. We don't have showers. Like, I mean, it's pretty, but it's nothing
Hmm.
like super like luxury spa like. But I love that. And I think that that's really common that, we just tend to maybe like how do I say that, like attach our nervous system and our beliefs to the people around us, you know. And I love how you're acknowledging that surrounding yourself with like a group of successful or on their way to successful, you know, entrepreneurs who really believe that it's possible to not only make significant revenue, but to make a significant salary and supportive salary as a yoga studio owner, that was one of the keys to transforming that belief. It's just like being around people who actually also believe that and who are working towards that. So I think that's really a very powerful part of surrounding yourself with people who have the kind of mindset that you want to have.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's how I feel. Like I've told you a bunch too, like since we've talked, that like just this group at this time was the mindset was pivotal like in my growth recently too. So
Yeah. And I want to acknowledge, you know, for those of the folks who are in the audience, you'll be watching this obviously after the date that we are recording this, and we're recording this in the middle of COVID shutdown. Like neither Alyssa nor I has reopened our studio. And so you may be watching this at a much later time, but in this moment, you know, Alyssa spent at least 2 of the months of her 3-month time in COVID land, you know, with me and with the other mentees. And so, yeah, I think for me too, I've really realized like how vital mindset, an entrepreneur mindset, and like also like a hopeful mindset and a can-do attitude has been, I think, one of the reasons why so many of us have actually navigated these last couple of months so skillfully. So,
yeah.
so I want to talk about that because you've actually had some amazing growth in your studio during COVID 2019, which is just totally mind-blowing. And so I know that when you came to me, I remember this in our discovery call in the beginning, we were talking about how you had kind of gotten in this cycle of like relying on the flash sale. Like, so you'd have like 1 month that was really strong because you'd run a bunch of sales, and then you'd have these other months where you were just scraping by, like barely able to meet your costs. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Tell us what that looked like for you.
Yeah, so it was basically like whenever I felt like we needed a little extra money, like in our bank account or anything like that, then I'd be like, well, I haven't run a flash sale for like 2-3 months, so I'll put one out there, and then everybody would buy the class packages. And that's all I really sold on flash sale. Like I didn't do memberships or anything like that. And our prices were already pretty low to begin with, which was another realization too during the program. But yeah, that's basically what it looked like. And that's really the only thing that I played around with too much. And I think a lot of that had to do with just not having the space to create and
Yeah.
come up with a strategy and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about the growth that you've experienced in these last 3 months, in spite of being dark at your studio, you know, for the last 2 of the 3 months that we were working together. What does that look like for you?
So we actually we started growing really fast. I think the first month, which would have been like the end of February into March, right before we had to close, like mid-March. And that was mostly when, I think I was telling you this too, when I was really only in the mindset part of the program, which was really cool to see. Just that having a different energy and putting that out there was actually making a huge difference when I hadn't put any effort into strategy or anything yet. And then once we closed, we actually, I don't remember month to month like what the percentage increase was, but I know from February through the start of May, at the end of my 3 months, my revenue increased by 25%, and it was consistent pretty much the whole way through. So it was about at 3,000 for each month, and closer to 4,000 by the end.
Which is so amazing, you know, because like I know when you came to me that like you were hitting sometimes those $3,000 months of revenue, which was like, you know, like you were pretty much like breaking even at 3,000, which is quite common for a small studio, you know, for any of you guys who are watching, like a smaller studio, you know, of what Alyssa is working with, and in the, like the kind of town in Pennsylvania that Alyssa is working with. I find that across the board that like break even is like 3,000 to 4,000 usually before you can pay yourself, you know? And so I know you were hitting those on those flash sale months, but you were also having a couple of months of like, you know, $1,700 or
Yep.
something like that in sales, which I would imagine was very stressful for you during that time. So yeah, to have, you know, consistent 3K and now moving into 4K months, I can just imagine what a blessing that felt like and how fun that was. What do you feel like has shifted inside of you now that you see that this is possible for you and you're really starting to see the results coming in?
I think I'm kind of playing with it like a game. I don't know if that's really a shift or not, but I'm just kind of making it fun, and like also having like more strategy around it, like with the social media marketing. That helped a lot. Like I feel like once that clicked too, and your method that you tied in there, then I feel like now it's not really as difficult for me to do it as it was before. And just like the consistency in making sure that you're promoting those things, instead of like before I would probably post something like once or twice, and that's really all I would share about it. So I didn't have like that 11th hour mindset that you talk about or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I've really seen you grow so much in your entrepreneur mindset. And I actually think, you know, what you just talked about, like that kind of feeling of it's a game and like, let me just play with this piece or that piece. That's actually a really great entrepreneur mindset. You know, we always talk about in my program, thinking of it all as a grand experiment. It's like, let's experiment this month with this strategy. And then if we don't get exactly the results we want, we're not going to scrap the whole strategy. We're just going to like make a tweak and then try it again, you know, and just keep playing with it. And I think I love that you have that kind of quality of playfulness. So I want to talk for a moment about something you've mentioned to me a couple of times, which is that one of the reasons why you felt like this program was so helpful for you personally was the combination of business strategy and spirituality. And I'm actually just very curious for my own knowing of like, what did that feel like for you? And in what ways were you able to weave your own spirituality into being a business owner? In what new ways have you learned how to do that in the last 3 months?
Okay. I think that I feel a lot more comfortable with just like I'm trying to think where I want to start, because I have like two parts of me that I feel like were always battling whenever I would try and like do businessy kind of things versus like the whole yoga part of me. Like that felt separate to me for some reason. And I think it's because I'm naturally like a type A personality. But then when I got into yoga, now like the more like go with the flow and like easygoing part of me comes out sometimes. And I don't know if that has to do with astrology or something, but it just feels like it doesn't really mesh so much all the time. So I always battled with that when I would try and like market my business. And whether it was here, like for the yoga studio or something else that I was playing around with to try and market, it was like, well, that's like for my actual full-time job, not the studio. The studio is like my fun thing. So like I felt like it was supposed to be a little different for some reason. But then basically when we connected, I felt that that's kind of why I really felt like this was the path that I needed to go on, and like we should work together, because I liked how you tied it together. And I don't know if it was just a vibe or something, but then like now going through it, it all makes sense, because I always had trouble just relaxing. I always felt like I needed to constantly be productive or making money and like hustling, I guess. So now that you tied in kind of how to like think of meditating or taking time to like play with your animals or go for a walk or whatever it might be, think of that as like you nursing your own energy basically to provide for your business. Kind of thinking about it in that way helped me feel like, okay, I'm still being productive because I'm just taking care of myself.
Oh my gosh, totally. I love that. I mean, I feel like that's one of my secret superhero skills that I weave into this program is like, sure, I'll teach you pricing strategy and like marketing skills and copywriting and all kinds of,
Yeah.
how to run a team meeting, all those like very practical things. But I love that like what really makes for an enjoyable experience as a small business owner is your feeling of not only spaciousness for your, your own health and your own self-care, but also your connection to intuition, your connection to spirit, and to feel, we call it as being a spirit-led business. And it's just a whole new game when you can think about your marketing strategy as actually directed from intuition, from spirit, and from a place of wanting to be of service, rather than just making money. And the truth is the money is actually quite pleasurable. It's really wonderful when it comes in. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like for many of us, like you and I, we need something more than that to really sink our teeth into.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely feel that too. And I think it's kind of cool too, because as I saw, like, I think it was yesterday, I was having trouble relaxing for some reason. And then I told myself, like, just go outside. And I think for a couple hours, I was doing stuff around the house, like playing with, I don't know, my plants or something. And then I came in and I don't know why I was so stuck on something and like frustrated about like income or something like that. And I saw we had 2 sales come in and I was like, there's that manifestation.
Yes, I love that. You went for a walk and then the money arrived. That's
Yeah.
just like super cool.
When you let go a little bit more. So
Oh, I love that. That's really cool. So I actually want to talk about money for a second, because you also had this other huge, from my perspective, breakthrough around deciding you were going to have a salary. And so can you tell us about that process where you were just like making a decision rather than just waiting to see at the end of the month what you could squirrel away? Like, tell us about that shift for you.
okay, yeah, that was kind of how I always used to treat it, was just like, oh, whenever we have something extra, like after a flash sale or something, I'll take a little bit, because that's how, like, it's a sole proprietorship. So like I never had like a salary built into my plan. It was just whatever was profit I would be able to take. But and then you had talked about this, I think, with some others, and when you were talking about it, it clicked for me, honestly. And not too long ago, actually, it just probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But yeah, like when you aren't making sure to pay yourself first, of course, then you're gonna have like you're gonna give the money to something else, whether it's an expense of some sort, or like the teachers, or I don't know, anything really. Like you can find something to spend it on. Maybe marketing, I'd probably spend it on that. But then I made the decision last month to give myself like an even number that would help me out a lot with just like not having anything during COVID and stuff. So I did it, and I felt a little uncomfortable with where our bank account was at that point. But then I'm like, no, it's gonna come back. I needed to pay myself that for all the work I've been doing. So now that's like my goal this month too. And like once I feel that I know that I'm going to pay myself regardless of like where our income is at that point, like I feel like then it just like kind of helps you to relax and move through the process of creating a little bit easier, if that makes sense.
It really does. It really does. And like, I want you to know, Alyssa, that I found this in my own experience of running my 2 businesses and also in coaching so many studio owners over the years, is that it's really interesting when you start to like demand more in a way from your business. Is like, no, this business is going to pay me $1,000 a month, $3,000 a month, $7,500, not 7,500, but $7,500 a month or $10,000 a month. When you just make a decision of like, this is what's going to happen, this is going to be the new normal, it's very interesting how your business expands to accommodate that, in my experience. It's like you just make a decision, this is going to be the new normal, this is the new belief, is like, this is what it's going to create, and your business just goes, okay, you want that? Okay, great. But I think the mistake that many of us make, because this is like standard small business understanding in our society, is small business owners should pay all the bills, and then whatever's left they should pay themselves. And so that's, to me, a mistaken belief that many small business owners have, is you wait into the end to see what's left. And then, but what I've found is what you discovered is like, no, you actually decide, I'm going to have a salary. This is the new requirement. So what do we have to do here? How can we open to create the situation where the business does provide a steady salary, and I just think that's so cool that you like made a decision. And I love that that's, of course, now your goal for this month, and to get really steady in that. And I'm sure you'll decide, I need to give myself a raise now. So now it can be the next level, That's super cool. Amazing. So before we sign off, I would love for you to tell our audience, like, you actually are an amazing marketer, like, of course, because of your background. You picked up the marketing skills in my program like super fast, and have just put them into play, making your Facebook lives and, really niching down. And you have a beautiful website. Can you direct my audience to check out your studio and your website or your social media?
Yeah, sure. So our website is www.homeyogabar.com. And then our Instagram page is just the @Home Yoga Bar. And then, yeah, if you go on Facebook, you could find it just by searching Home Yoga and Bar too. So
awesome. And then where in Pennsylvania are you located, in case any of my folks are from around you?
So we're close to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton area. It's in West Pittston, actually, but it's like right between Wilkes-Barre and Scranton. So like northeastern Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, that's like some of my old stomping ground as a North Jersey kind of gal. I used to spend some time up there. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alyssa. And thank you to all of you who have watched this interview series today with Alyssa, who's just one of my rock stars and so enjoyed working with. And if you are interested in our services as business growth mentors and coaches, I'm going to put a link to my team's calendar in the comments below. And the next step for you will be to set up a business breakthrough call, which is exactly what Alyssa did when she was curious about working with us. And so it's a free call, and you'll get on the phone with me or one of my team members. And in this call, we will help you get crystal clear about what your income, financial, and also time freedom goals are. Like, and sometimes we also call them ease goals. Like, what do you really want to create for your life and your business so that it is an enjoyable business for you to wake up to each morning? We'll help you get clear on that. We'll also help you get clear on your next steps, and whatever those may be. If those steps do align with our curriculum and our coaching and our support, then we may invite you to be one of the mentees that we take on this month. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. And thank you so much, Alyssa, for joining me today. It was just such a pleasure. Yes. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. See you soon.